Hello there and welcome to another review. Now this review is relating to a medium that used to be popular before YouTube. They call it the Idiot's Lantern. Yep, kind of gave away the title of today's review in the introduction. It is the David Tennant story, The Idiot's Lantern, the 7th episode of his very first season, Series 2. Back in 2006, hard to believe it's 12 years ago now. Anyway, as always, I have a plot synopsis to go through, but it's not through the television companion because I only have the television companion going up to the TV movie. This is afterwards, so I've written quite a quick synopsis here, and we'll go through it just now. The Doctor and Rose arrive in London in 1953, although they were intending to go to an Elvis Presley television appearance in New York. They soon realise it's just before the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, and Rose notices TV aerials in most houses, which should be rare at the time. The TVs are being sold by Magpie, who has been taken over by an entity called The Wire, who intends to feed off the local population to create a body to shed its electrical form in which it is imprisoned. During their investigations, the Doctor and Rose meet the Connollys, who have a family member, Tommy Connolly's grandmother, without a face. She is taken by the authorities during the visit, and Rose notices a strange energy around the Connolly's TV, and she makes her way to Magpie's shop where The Wire steals her face. The Doctor follows the authorities and finds a local holding pen for all the faceless victims, speaking with Detective Inspector Bishop. During their conversation, a faceless Rose is brought in. Angered, the Doctor goes to Magpie's shop and nearly loses his face, after The Wire tries to consume him, Tommy and Bishop. Tommy and the Doctor manage to escape, and they go to the Alexandra Palace station transmitter. Magpie connects a portable device which houses the Wire to the transmitter, and the Wire starts feeding off the local population. The Doctor manages to stop the Wire with his own device, capturing it on a Betamax tape, but not before the Wire kills Magpie. Everybody has their faces returned, and the Doctor and Rose celebrate the coronation with the rest of the town. So yes, quite a long-winded plotline, but worth it, I think, because it gets the story quite well. Let's go into the story itself. Interesting little concept, talking about an alien entity around the coronation. It's only based around North London, but the fact that you've got this entity that seems to live in the transmissions, that's eating people's faces to get their minds, it's really quite a weird concept. It's the second script written by Mark Gatiss for the series. He will go on to write many more. He's second only to Stephen Moffat in the number of episodes that he wrote for the series. No, that's a lie. Russell T Davies is second. He's third to Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat for the episode they wrote for the series. And overall, the script is alright. Basic enough story. Monster of the Week situation. It's right in the middle of the series, so you expect it to be maybe a little bit more relaxing, bit of a background to it. But I like the idea of the coronation, the fact everybody's celebrating, and the spooky face that comes out. Trying to evoke some of the Empty Child Doctor Dances feeling from the previous story with some of the music and the way it's projected, but it doesn't quite work. The Doctor you have played by the effervescent David Tennant, of course. He's in the middle of his first season at this point, so by this time he's settled into the role, and his chemistry with Billie Piper is fantastic. They really bounce off each other at this point. You can definitely see why Tennant is one of the most popular Doctors in public opinion. He's got a great mix of humour. There's a lot of rage in here, and there's certainly anger as well. But the anger only comes out when Rose is taken. Before that, he's quite interested, he's quite placid, he's just moving along, bumbling along, trying to find out what's happening. So really you can see that Rose tempers his anger in that respect. Speaking of Rose, Billie Piper is definitely solid in the role by now. She's done, at this point, a series and a half of Doctor Who. She really has made Rose her own, and it's really she's really relishing it. She's confident in the abilities that Rose has, those abilities, and really complements, as I say, the Doctor from his harder edges. A couple of guest stars here, of course. You've got Maureen Lipman, who plays The Wire. Okay, sinister character. I like the idea it comes from a kind of staid, plummy BBC announcer that she takes the form of. Although there are some times where she goes a bit too hammy. The hungry, like she says, she does it a bit too hammy. It just seems a bit forced. It doesn't seem very menacing, I don't think. Then you've got Ron Cook, who plays Mr. Magpie. Now, very a very tortured soul, and he's a very poor stooge to the wise plans, of course. And he really is tormented, and Ron does a very good job of putting that across. Then you've got some other minor characters. You've got the Connollys here. You've got Eddie Connolly, who's played by Jamie Foreman. Now, Jamie Foreman was known for other things at that time, but it's a great little part he's done. It's quite fun. He's atypical of a man trying to be the big man of his own house, but secretly is weak as anything. And the fact that he obviously tries to put his pretense on with, "I am talking," and the way the Doctor shoots it down rather quickly afterwards, it just shows he's trying to put some sort of authority there, and it's not quite working. Then you've got Deborah Gilley, who's Rita. Now, she starts the meet wife, the browbeaten wife, but shows a strength of her own by the end and ends up kicking Eddie out after she finds out that Eddie reported the authorities about Rita's mum, Tommy's grandmother, in regards to the face not having any face. So it was down to Eddie that reported it. So you see the coward side of him as well. And then you got Tommy Connolly, played by Rory Jennings. Now, Rory, he's the same age as me. He's 34. And he plays a very good scared young teenage boy, even though he's probably about 10 years older than that at this point. But he does have the steel of his mother, and it's played with a great charm, and I do enjoy the role. But as I say, it's not a bad story. I mean, the music's okay. The plot goes along at a pace. You're not really bored. There's no gaps. It's not really that rushed. The story just about works for the 45 minutes that it's on for. But it's not the best of the Tennant era. It is one of the more stories out there. And you do get a few with the Tennant era. I mean, every era has its iffy stories. David Tennant's era is no different. But it is mid-season. They've just come out from the parallel universe with the Cybermen from the Age of Steel. So obviously they're travelling as a pairing again after Mickey stayed over at the Age of Steel in the parallel universe. Pete's world, as they call it, later on in the series. And it's the start of the foreboding of what the Doctor feels about losing Rose. And obviously this is the first time we see Rose effectively being in a position where she could be lost to the Doctor, and we see his anger and his grief from that. So it's the first foreshadowing of what happens later in that series. Marigold's music is fine. It's got it's pretty standard at this point. It may have an orchestral tone to it now, but it's still very much like it was the first series, the way its style and its tone is. And but his big orchestral pieces are still to come, as far as I can see from the series. That he's not really done the big famous themes that he's done later on yet, but you can see the elements of that in here. But there's a lot of sax, there's a lot of brass being used still, just like the first series in that respect. Overall, I give this 3 TARDISes out of 5. Yes, not the best story in the run, not the strongest. I do enjoy it, but it's not a story I would pick off the shelf automatically to watch. But yes, this gentleman here is certainly having an interesting time as the Doctor at this point. So, what do you think of The Idiot's Lantern? Tell me, let me know in the comments down below. There's a link to the playlist up there of all the other reviews I've done so far. Tell me what you think of them. Go watch them, comment, like them if you haven't already. And if you like what these videos do and you like to see more of them, the best way of finding out when they're next released is subscribing. The reviews don't necessarily come out every month, but they do come out on a Sunday at 4 PM GMT on the 3rd Sunday of the month if they do. Speaking of the schedule, next week it is a Kidstructor, and I might be sorting through my post before we go ahead and do the reaction to that one. But until then, hopefully you'll join me for that. New video is released next Sunday at 4 PM GMT, and I shall see you then, unless, of course, there is some news I put in midweek. At the time of this recording, that's not happened yet. Anyway, until then, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later.